I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water.
Yeah, bro. What are you about? Tell me a little about yourself. I know a little bit about your background and everything when we sat down and discussed, but what are you about? Because you're on here for the Life Play organization and service you're trying to bring about in the world. What got you introduced to it? And just tell me a little bit about yourself. What are you about, Tyler?
So my name is Tyler Seward. I'm a psychology student at Florida National University in Miami. And I just have a passion for like psychology, sports psychology. Being a former athlete myself, I myself battled with like psychological, I would say, psychological distractions, like playing my sport. And lots of people deal with the same exact thing. So that's why I just want to help people with that. And then that's why I created my company called The Life Play, where we'll have consultants soon. But right now we're just spreading the message of like mental health awareness in sports and life, because it's very important. And people really they really look past it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just want to make more people think about it.
They look past it a lot, and I think it's a topic that should be brought up much, much more.
Definitely.
Especially with like social media, where it's really, really growing more and more as we get older. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that should be brought out and expressed better, because now we can start to use social media as you are to help others and help other athletes. Yeah. You played basketball, correct?
Yeah.
At what age do you think you started experiencing like mental health issues relating to the sport, out of the sport? But what time, like, was it early in high school, maybe before, later in high school? When did you personally feel that mental health toll on yourself?
So I would say I didn't really like feel it or even know what I was feeling until maybe like junior year of high school. But I would say it all goes back to maybe 6th grade when I started playing like high level basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Because during that, like when you're in certain like circuits, like Nike circuits, Under Armour circuits, stuff like that, even at that young of an age, like it's a big responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of pressure on you from coaches, from your family, from people that you don't even know, crowds. So I would say it definitely started all the way back then, but like that pressure and all that didn't really like overwhelm me, I would say, till around junior year.
Do you think it was because more of like a maturity level? You just didn't realize that pressure was there at the time at such a young age?
No, but not really, because to be honest, I would say when I was in 7th grade, I remember I told my dad after one of our tournaments or after one of our games. I don't remember either one, but I was saying like I just feel like there's so much pressure on me, like, and he didn't even really understand, because I would say my parents they didn't put a whole lot of pressure on me. My parents they let me do what I do, like they just wanted me to have fun or whatever. But I was just playing at such a high level that the pressure was coming from like coaches and even like other players on my team and stuff like that, and it was definitely overwhelming.
Now, do you think, you said like players and coaches, what are they doing where they put pressure on you, telling you to play better? Like if you miss a shot, you can't miss that next time. Like what type of pressure are these coaches and players putting on other players, and like the kids they're trying to coach to become a better player? What's the pressure they're putting on them that's usually taking a toll at an age you were at in 7th grade, or like high school in general, that range? What's the pressure like, and what type of pressure is it?
So I would say, like I said, when you're playing at a certain level, at a high level, there's not room for errors and mistakes, and missed shots, and missed layups, all that, because they have somebody else that can fill that role and do that.
Yeah.
So that's why, like me, that was always in the back of my mind personally. Like, oh, say I missed this shot, like I could possibly come out the game. No athlete wants to come out the game. They want to play the game that they love to play. And so it's like that, and it gets worse and worse as you go up in levels, like in college sports, and then especially at the pro level, because there's literally so many people that can fill that spot.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So if you're not playing at a certain level, it's like you need to do better.
Yeah.
And you tell yourself that. You put that pressure on yourself, like, oh, I need to do better. I can't make a mistake and stuff like that. And I would say the words of saying I can't make a mistake, that's something that lots of athletes fall for, like in their own mind. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a mind trick, because when you tell yourself that I can't make a mistake, you focus on making that mistake
way more
rather than just flowing and playing at your full potential.
So you think like players are like, it's you against you, like they have that thought in the back of their head. Like you said, I'll relate to this exactly. So we talked before, I don't like anything scripted. It's a raw conversation. Like there's nothing going on in the back of our head. But you think these players, like instead of playing in that rhythm that they usually play at, they have that in the back of their mind at all times, and they're constantly thinking it's just going to cause them to make more errors, right?
Yes,
Correct, down the line.
Yeah.
And this is something I think coaches should realize, because if you just let a player be a player, they're going to realize themselves that, yeah, they made a mistake, but the next time around, they can play their game and not have that voice in the back of their head pressuring them to not miss. Because I'd say if there were statistics-wise, they'd miss a lot more if that pressure was on them mentally, rather than if it wasn't and they just played themselves. Do you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that. And people like Steph Curry, right? Steph Curry's so good. He can shoot so well. And one thing about him, I saw this video. He was talking about, he said, people ask me, what do I think about when I shoot the ball? He said, absolutely nothing.
Huh.
So that's the thing. Like, when you get to these high levels, their skills are so good and they prepare so well that when you get into the game, you should just be doing all those things that you prepared for and that you know you're good at. So someone like Steph Curry, he knows he can shoot the ball so well because of all the repetition he did and all the practice. So when it comes to the game, there's nothing to think about. Like,
yeah,
like he's done this so many times. He saw the ball go through the net so many times. He has nothing to think about.
And he's done it his own way. That's his style of playing.
Exactly.
Huh. So do you think that not think, but we know that's how you should be implemented to play, and that's how they should approach each game and each situation, because that is what they themselves prepared for, rather than not anyone else in the outside world like saying stuff on this is how you should play. Be yourself, and that's what's going to become the best result at the end of the day.
Exactly. That's why when we play sports, like we're supposed to be in a flow state. Have you ever, you know what a flow state is?
Where it's just continuously going, where you don't realize, right?
Exactly.
Is that what it is?
It's where there's minimal thinking, and you're literally just flowing. Like, I would say it's just like when you're reading a book, to be honest. Like, say you read a book, the first couple pages, like, your mind's still wandering, and you may not be reading as fast as you possibly can, but maybe like 3, 4, 5 pages in, you're just flowing.
Exactly.
Like, you're not thinking about anything. You're really indulged in the text. Like, it's the same exact way with sports.
Exactly that. And do you think more players would have made it down the line if that pressure wasn't on them at certain times to allow them to play differently?
Oh, most definitely.
You think more players would have made it?
Most definitely. Because, like I said, when you get to certain levels, like, that's what distinguishes Steph Curry from someone who didn't make the NBA. It's they can play in front of those huge crowds and still block out all the distractions and play to their potential.
Yeah.
Lots of people, they may get into these arenas and see like college scouts or NBA scouts and the girlfriend in the stands. All these things just take their mind off of the sport and the task that they're supposed to be completing. So that's why it definitely does play a big role. But that's why I want to help those people not allow those distractions to hinder their ability to play at a college level or play in the pros and stuff like that.
I'm about to transition exactly what you just said and how you're trying to help them. But I want to approach something almost like a devil's advocate. Now, many may think this, and this is why I'm saying it. Do you think it could almost build their mindset and confidence level to a different level if that pressure was on them and they did execute? So, like, if they went through, I don't want to say years, but a lot of moments where they had that pressure, but they overcame it, a lot may say that built them to the player they are today, and that built their confidence level to where they are today. Where does that come into play? Because I feel as if from a coaching standpoint, many coaches may think that way, because that may just be like how they were taught growing up. You're going to go through all this off the court, on the court. You're going to hear people saying stuff to you, harassing you about everything. You have to go into your own mindset and take control, and you have to zone all those people out. Yeah. What do you say about that? Because that could be a huge, like, on the other side type thing for a mental health service that you're trying to bring about, which is amazing. I'm just saying, like, the other side of what many coaches or other people may see.
So there's a technique in sports psychology. It's where you pretty much go back in time and look at all your successes, or not all your successes, but the successes that you need to look at a certain time. I'll give you an example, right? So Klay Thompson, do you remember in the finals, Klay Thompson, he started off very bad. like very bad. Wasn't making,
This year?
Yes, this
Okay.
year. Wasn't making any threes really. Like his percentage was horrible, right?
Yeah.
And so when he was interviewed by the press, like they were asking him like what are you gonna do, because this looks bad. Like you're not looking like Klay Thompson, right?
I know what you're talking about.
Exactly. And you know what he said? He said, you know, I'm just sit down with the video guys and I'm gonna go watch the game where I had like 16 threes.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, because he pretty much is saying that he knows he's capable of making these shots, but he just has to see that imagery, and that imagery will allow him to change the way he's viewing how he's playing. So how he was playing in the moment, he wasn't seeing the ball go through the net.
Yeah.
So it's like that confidence goes away, and all that work that he did, it's like he can't even really access it, because in the moment all he's seeing is misses, right? So that's why he said he would sit down with his people at Golden State and just watch the games where he was making all his shots. And he said he was gonna pay attention to his feet and all his mechanics, and then he formed that confidence back. And I think the next game he had like 6 threes.
Wow, because he implemented it. He implemented that into his mindset to allow him to play that way.
Exactly. It's called positive imagery.
Positive imagery.
Yes.
Okay, that was a good point you just brought about. I'm gonna clip that literally and make it a reel for you. Now, the Life Play, it's would you call it a service organization company? What would you call it?
So I would say right now we're pretty much of an organization, because we haven't really monetized yet. But we will be a consultant company in the future. But right now, you know, I really just want to spread awareness. You know, I'm not really worried about making money right now. I just want people to really expand their mind to the fact that lots of people deal with mental health issues.
Yes.
But people know that people deal with mental health issues in the regular world, right? But then we have athletes where, you know, people put athletes on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And people think athletes aren't human, you know, but the reality is they're human as well.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
They have the same biological processes that the average human has.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I just want to erase that stigma that athletes can't be dealing with mental health, or even the people that are making all this money. Like, just because they're making money doesn't mean that they don't go through things.
They're not an average human.
Exactly.
Like, they just have something else going on, like another human. They're almost in the public as well with it. I feel like that's a toll that plays a role with it as well, is that they're like, I don't want to say characters in a movie, but they're these people that are being shown in the world that they should be like you said, on a pedestal or like higher than others. No, they're just on a screen, and it just happens that they're on a screen, but they are just a human, just like one of us. So exactly. I think you're trying to express it in a very clear way. At what point did you realize you wanted to make this organization to erase that stigma and bring this about? When did the Life Play come about in your scenario in your life to where you wanted to express it?
So I would say after I went through my challenges in sports around like junior year, and then I would say senior year, I really transitioned. Like, I kind of knew that I wasn't going to be playing like college sports or whatever. So I had to transition my thinking. And then I'm thinking, like, what am I going to be doing in college? Like, what's my major going to be? Like, how am I going to make money in the future? Like,
yeah.
And then, I don't know, the thought of sports psychology just came into my head. Because, well, first, I always loved psychology. Like, I always thought about, like, why do people think the way that they think?
Uh-huh.
Like, that interests me so much.
What makes them choose the decision they made?
Exactly. And, like, everybody has different life experiences. Everybody is raised different. Everybody's hereditary, I don't know. But either way, everybody's is different. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that was so interesting to me. And then when I thought about it from a basketball point of view, I'm like, all those like mental health challenges, those same challenges happen in sports. Mm-hmm. And it happened with me. So it's like, and I know that it's very common. So when I thought of all that, I'm like, why don't I take the psychology and the fact that I used to be an athlete and help the current athletes go through their problems and their challenges so they don't go
through the same thing.
Exactly.
I want to ask you something, and I'm going to go right back on track where we were at. Like you said, you play at the highest level of basketball. You went to the Haverford School, right, for basketball as well? Now, with all these people playing sports at the highest levels, and they don't end up going to that next level, college, professionals, etc., Was there a mental aspect that played as well? Because you weren't playing the sport you loved. You were. It's a whole different lifestyle.
Yeah.
You. I feel like a lot of people are hard on themselves because that wasn't the path that they continue to take, but they've done it their whole life.
Exactly.
Is that a huge mental aspect that athletes that don't go into the college professional world experience as well? Because I felt it with hockey. Like when I stopped playing hockey, I was like, damn, like was I supposed to continue hockey? Like it was very hard on my mental toll. I was like, maybe I'm not making the right decision. Like I was like, I really love this. Like, but then at the end of the day, I felt as if like maybe that's not the path God wanted me to take. It was just a life lesson at the time that I needed to experience to push me out farther. Do you think that's a huge toll, though, athletes absorb and obtain?
Yeah. I would say that that's one of the biggest challenges with high school athletes that can't make it to college, or even college athletes that made it to college. They were amazing in high school. They were the man. Like, everybody loved them.
Mm-hmm.
Then they got to college, and they may still even play okay in college, get like good playing time, but then they still can't make it to the NBA, the NFL, NHL,
that next
MLB.
level.
Exactly. So that's hard because growing up, all you know is that sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like being an athlete, your whole life is centered around that sport.
It is.
You work out every day, all those things, right? And I would say that for some people, like myself, I was an ego identity, right? It was my identity that I wanted to make happen because of my ego and because I put so much time into the sport.
I know exactly what you mean.
Exactly, but in reality, that's not my identity. Because it's just, it can't be. You see what I'm saying? Because I wasn't able to get to a certain level. So it's like, I need to transition somehow. And that ego, when you have that ego identity death, that's when you can really figure out your true identity. And then lots of people still, they may not go to the pros and not go to college and then still have that ego identity though.
Mm-hmm.
So it stays in their mind and they still want to be that college basketball player, still want to be that NBA player. And they spend so much of their time like thinking about that, or still trying to do it by working out and all those type of things, that they can't really develop their true self. So that's why I think it's really important to, when people can't get to those certain levels, you have to change the way you think. Like, because when you're an athlete, that's all you think.
But I feel as if there's like that lost stage where they feel lost.
Yes.
And I think that's exactly what you're saying, where you just have to find that next step on what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. But I think you specifically are a true like representation of what someone in that state of mind could do or potentially do with their life. Because you looked at it as like a learning point, and now you want to take it and help others learn and grow from it and take what they can from what you're trying to express and bring about through your experience as well.
Yeah.
And as you said, you're trying to bring this about and erase the stigma. What are some of the steps you personally want to take moving forward with the Life Play company and organization? And where do you want to be down the line? Now, I'm going to ask you that again later, but what are some of the steps you think your company and organization should take to express this statement out to the world?
So right now, to do that, we're on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and we will be on YouTube soon. But right now, we're posting on all those platforms, just spreading the word.
What are you posting?
I would post clips of people like Klay Thompson, as I just mentioned earlier, like that clip of him in the press room speaking about that sports psychology technique, or even people like Michael Phelps, quotes from Michael Phelps talking about how he had so many thoughts about killing himself, right? Mm-hmm. But people don't think about that. Michael Phelps, he has the most gold medals of any Olympian ever.
Michael Phelps.
Exactly. So they're thinking, how could he have thoughts about killing himself? So that's why I just want to give people that side of the story that they don't notice or know. And then also, like I said, we'll be on YouTube soon. So I'll be starting a podcast soon. And then I'll be physically talking to these athletes that are going through these things currently. Maybe college athletes, professional athletes. And then I'll also talk to sports psychologists as well, and regular psychologists, just to get their take on, well, college athletes' take and athletes in general's take on how the mental aspect of their sport plays such an important role.
And do you think these athletes are very not open about it, but they would want to come on and express it to help others? Do you think it's more of like they do want to do it rather than you wanting to ask them and them like debating whether or not they should come on and like talk about it, like have that iffy feeling inside them? Do you think it's more of they want to help others like yourself and express it? Do you think that's their state of mind going into it? Is that they would love to do this type of stuff?
Yes, I think that lots of people would love to help others because there's lots of high school players that they won't think about these things until they get to college.
Yeah.
Or they won't even have these challenges until they get to college. So that's why I want to have college athletes physically talking about their day-to-day lives. And also, I also think that as these athletes sit down in the chair and just talk about and really reminisce about all these feelings, that it'll be like a release.
It would be exactly
it'll
that.
Definitely like a release because lots of people, they may feel these things, but they may just dismiss it, put it in their subconscious, and then it's subconsciously eating them alive. But then when you physically talk about these things, it's like a release from your body.
Yeah.
And it just feels so good.
It's like a weight off your shoulders.
Exactly.
And they may not even notice that they're expressing it until after they may reflect on it.
Exactly.
And they need to, I think that's a huge aspect that people should start doing is reflecting on those times. Because like you said, if they hold it in and it's in their subconscious, that just isn't almost healthy. Because there's a lot of, I know the subconscious plays a huge role within dreaming as well. Like, the subconscious is something that does affect your daily life, I'd say. Definitely. And if that stuff you're just storing in your head, it's just going to affect you down the line long term rather than why not take... Now, I'm a huge advocate for long-term satisfaction rather than short-term satisfaction. I say it a lot on the podcast, but I think this is one scenario where instead of holding that stuff in, where it's going to ruin you long-term, take that short-term route and express it so it's not affecting you in a bad way long-term, if that made sense at all.
No, it makes perfect sense because it's like that's why you'll see people that are maybe 40, 50, they'll still be dealing with the same things that they dealt with when they were a teenager.
In high school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's all because they never really talked about and expressed their feelings, you know? So that's why it's really important to do that. Like, to really just express your feelings and then not prolong
and make it long-term and ruin you down the line.
Exactly.
What type of people do you think they should be expressing this to? Because you shouldn't, I don't want to say, how do I put this? You should talk to this about someone who's also going to look at it both sides, the good and the bad, and really give their true opinion to help you out. What do you personally think is the best person to talk to this situation about?
So it depends on the person. I would say whoever you're really comfortable with talking with, or just someone who's non-judgmental. Being non-judgmental, that plays an important role on when you're listening to someone speak about their problems or speak about like how they actually feel. Because nobody wants to be judged when they're speaking about, oh, this makes me sad or I feel anxious when this happens. Nobody wants to be judged.
Just going to stop them from opening up.
Exactly. So I would just say, talk to whoever you're comfortable with, but just make sure they're non-judgmental. Or even a therapist, licensed clinicians, stuff like that.
But I actually would love to ask you this because you're in psychology. I feel as if a lot of people, even myself sometimes see this with therapists, they look at it as like this person's just talking to me because they get the money for it. Why do you think that's so like in people's eyes? And because that's I think is a huge reason why people don't go and talk to therapists, because they're not going to talk to someone who's just going to say what they want to hear because they're giving them the money. Where does that line be drawn where people should want to open up to certain not physical therapists, to therapists and talk to, but not see them as just like a money taker rather than just them helping them? Do you think it's like you should test out maybe 3-4 therapists, see which one you really think is going to help you out down the line? Do you get what I'm saying?
I see exactly what you're saying. I would say that I would think that most therapists, me myself being a future therapist, most therapists, they love helping people. Like that's the main goal. But then you also have to think people spend many years in college, maybe getting masters, maybe getting a PhD. I mean, you need to get paid somehow.
Yeah.
You didn't spend 10 years in college
Yeah.
to not get paid.
You have a great point there.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just the basics, pretty much. Like, you need to get paid for your service, but I think it's very important for the therapist to actually genuinely want to help their patients
and care for them.
Yes, it's very selfish and very, like, you don't want to just have your patients there for money. Like,
yeah,
that's. Then also, you're not helping your patient as well as you can if you really care. You see what I'm saying?
That's exactly what you're saying. And this is something you said you wanted to bring consulting into the Life Play organization, correct?
Yes.
Are you going to have therapists and what would you call it, psychiatrists under your
psychologists?
Psychologists.
Well, psychiatrists and psychologists.
Would you have them? What's the difference first?
Well, psychiatrists can prescribe medicine.
Okay.
Yeah, psychologists can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you want these people within your organization?
Yes.
How would you approach, say if you have you're posting you need 2 psychologists, and 10 people came to you. What are you doing to make sure you get the best person you can get to help your people and help others that were in your position earlier on? What are you looking at these people to see, like, how they can help others, especially in the sports world, athletic world? How are you going to pick the best people for your company to express and help others?
So I would say the best sports therapists are people that used to play sports.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would look for the most. Are these people former athletes?
Yes.
Because if you're not a former athlete, I feel like you can't really connect as well as you think you can to an athlete when they're going through challenges.
You didn't experience it.
Exactly. Someone who's actually firsthand experienced it and felt that pain, those are the people that I need.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a brilliant idea. You should follow along with. Exactly. And this is also another question I have for you, because this was brought up in my last podcast, actually. So the guest, she went to talk to somebody, a therapist, and she was 27 at the time. But the therapist they were going to was 25, 26. Mm-hmm. She felt weird about it because they were younger than her. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a big misconception that people should clear away from? Or
well,
and she did.
I feel like you can't say it's a misconception because that's how she personally felt. Mm-hmm. You can't disregard her feelings. So it's like if that person being younger than them impacted the way the session goes or how much information she actually gives them, then I would say that that's not the therapist for them. Okay. I have no right to say that she shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah,
that's how she feels.
Just an opinion.
Exactly.
I love that, because I was something that really intrigued me, because I was like, I don't know how I would personally feel as well if I was in those seats. It's just like in the moment type, you know?
Yeah, that is a little weird, but like at the same time.
Yeah, like how would you feel?
They could have been through a lot more than you have.
You just don't know. You don't know their story at all.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge, like, you got to see what's going on there, you know? Yeah. So where did you come up with the name for your organization, the Life Play? I know the story, but I wanted you to express it well to the audience and to me again. Where did you come up with the name, the Life Play? Because I like the name. It's intriguing. I like the logo. I like it all. I think it's great. I love what you're doing with it. Where did you come up with it? How did you come up with it?
So I was really thinking, like, after I went through my own battles, right? I'm like, to really overcome mental challenges, you have to pretty much play a game inside your mind, mm-hmm. as well as play a game inside this game we call life.
Yep.
So that's pretty much how I came up with the name. It's like life is just a game. It's all about how you play it.
Exactly how you play it.
Exactly. So I don't know. That's how I came up with the name. But I will also say give credit to my dad. My dad did come up with the name, so I can't take that away from him.
Well, hey, man, I love it because you have a meaning behind it. It's like, this really is the game of life. It's like we were just put here, and it's like, here you go at it. Exactly. Here's the world. Here's the game of life. Yeah. The Life Play. I love it. Like you said, you want to transition to YouTube. Mm-hmm. You want to have a podcast. You want to have almost therapy sessions, right? You want to have the consulting down the line with it. Yeah. What other aspects of it do you want to express on YouTube specifically? Because I know you're a huge fan of YouTube and what it's about. What do you want to express for the Life Play organization on YouTube?
So I just want to keep spreading information about sports therapy, about the techniques. So that's why I want to have a segment where we just really break down sports psychology, exactly what it is, exactly the techniques, the signs to look for, all those things, so that athletes can go on our page and actually learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is information that you're not taught in school. This is information that the world tries to hinder from people because they think, just tough it out, stuff like that. So that's why I really want to give people this information that is well needed.
I like that. I like that a lot because knowledge is power.
Definitely.
A professor in college told me that, and I never looked back since. I think knowledge is the key component of what you want to do in life. If you have the knowledge to do it, it can help you. It can benefit you. You can learn from it. You can grow as a human. It's all around great.
Yeah.
Now, I talked about this with you privately. Would you do this down the line as well, where like, say if there's a professional athlete, and I'll use Simone Biles for example. She didn't do the Olympics or one of the events because of mental health, right? Now, would someone on your team almost like analyze that and make a video about it and express it so people can really see what's going on in that situation there?
Yes, definitely.
You would,
because people hear these stories, Simone Biles, Ben Simmons, for sure. People hear these stories and they don't actually understand like what they're going through mentally.
Yeah.
Like they just see, like they're supposed to be so good. Like how can they not do this? But it's like when your mind is doing its own thing, lots of times you can't control that unless you sit down and really take a break.
Yeah.
And really figure out what's going on.
You yourself, I feel like, in that situation, have to analyze what's going on.
Exactly. So that's why it would definitely be beneficial for us to really break down these situations that people don't understand, and so they can form a different viewpoint when they view this information. Because people, I would say Ben Simmons, he's became like the laughing stock of the NBA.
Yeah,
right?
you can exactly
like
say
especially
that.
on social media. You got Stephen A. saying all these things about him,
shitting on him.
Exactly, but realistically, there's a mental component with like how he was playing and with his decreasing confidence, all that, so that people don't understand. I'll give you a perfect example, right? I was watching one of Shaq's new podcasts on TNT, and they were talking to a therapist, like just speaking about sports therapy, and so the whole time Shaq was just talking about like his experience, like with like lack of confidence and things of those that nature, and kept talking about mental fortitude, right? Mental fortitude is pretty much being able to like bounce back from all those things. And he was saying my mental fortitude is so good that like everybody else's mental fortitude should be like that.
Yeah.
But it's like everybody's not you, Shaq.
Yeah, everyone's different. And
then Shaq was raised by an army sergeant, right?
Okay.
Exactly. So he also talked about how I don't want to mess up the story, but one time something was going on and his dad brought him to like around some homeless people.
Okay.
And he was like, you can't feel this way because you're not homeless. Uh-huh. You're not at this level. So there's no way you should ever feel bad about yourself or bad about just anything going on in your life because you have it so much better than that. So that's how he views the world. So whenever he's feeling down or whatever, he thinks about that homeless person. He's like, oh, I'm not there. So I would say personally, that's how he gets over his challenges, right? But he doesn't even notice that that's a technique.
Yeah,
that's an actual technique. That anytime he has those thoughts, he goes to the homeless person and thinks about that. That's an actual like psychological technique that he unconsciously does, right? So he was just wondering why can't people be like that?
Yeah, but
he doesn't understand it's based on the person. And he also said like someone like Ben Simmons, he's like, I don't understand how he can be scared to shoot free throws, but he can sit on the bench wearing $100,000 chain and like Gucci clothes and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
I would say the psychologist didn't really respond to the things Shaq was saying how I would or how I would like. So I would respond by saying this. So someone like Ben Simmons specifically, I would say he has a specific anxiety of like free throws, shooting, stuff like that, and that's where his lack of confidence came from, right?
It doesn't help that he's in Philly.
Exactly.
That he was in Philly.
Exactly,
yeah.
Right? But I would say that Ben Simmons probably feels the most confident when he has those $100,000 chains on and when he has all clothes on and he's dripped out. I would say that that's when he's the most confident. Like, so So you can't really compare his confidence on the court when he's shooting free throws and stuff like that, because that's the specific thing that he has anxiety about. He doesn't have anxiety about putting on clothes and chains and looking cool. Like, he does that. Like,
I see exactly what you're saying, and I didn't even look at it like that, because I know exactly what you're talking about, where he dresses bougie for these games, you know? Like, it's almost, the way I feel is if most people look at it, unlike yourself, and like, if they were to hear your representation of it, they'd probably change specifically. I think they're looking at it as if, like, this guy can't dress up and play ball, but he can trip the fuck out for a game that he's not even playing in. Like, come on, man. Like, you're spending all your money on all these clothes, but you're not playing the game. You're getting paid to get those clothes. I think that's where a lot of people see that vision that's going on there, unlike where you see it in a whole different way, which is brilliant, because I didn't even think about it that way, to be honest with you. But I think that's how the audience views it. It was like, why can't he play? Even this may not even make sense, but this is the way I viewed it, at least. Like, he can't play ball, but he's gonna dress and drip out for these games in $100 or $100,000 outfits. Like, what the fuck is going on there?
That could be compensation for his lack of confidence on the basketball court.
I think that's, like, if there's 5 decisions, that's one of the decisions. Like, I think that's a brilliant, brilliant theory. Like, I like it a lot, because if he was to listen to that and he could be like, oh my God, that's exactly right. Like, if people were to review it just like that, they would think.
Send this clip out to Benson.
I will. I'll add him. I'll add him on this, and I'll send it to him. DM exactly that. I got you. Don't worry, my boy. But I think if people were to hear it in that way, it changed a lot of people's perspectives.
Yeah.
Because
people need to hear the other perspective.
No one hears that.
People are so engulfed in their one way of thinking, or their society that they're in, that group thinking, that they don't hear the other perspective. Mm-hmm. So that's why sometimes when people hear the other perspective, they're like, oh, I never thought of it like that. Because they never had anybody in the circle or in their society, like, give them that viewpoint.
Yeah, exactly that. And I wanted to bring something up to you, like you said, the homeless thing with Shaq. J. Cole, I'm going to try to word this in a way where you can understand it. But J. Cole always talks about, like, when he was in that fame and that spotlight, he always wanted more. He always wanted the next thing. He was never satisfied, you know? And when stuff happens to these players, they always have to keep going. They're not satisfied. When I was in Peru, it was a third world country. And these, like, you would look left down the street, right down the street. Houses were, like, down the sticks and stones, like bricks on the ground, like stray dogs everywhere. Mm-hmm. But they had the biggest smile on their face. Like, their houses were like Shaq's 4x4 huts. I'm like not making this up. Smaller than this room. But they always had a smile, and they were always happy. But you could tell they weren't chasing that next accomplishment that maybe sports players have or athletes have. They're not chasing that satisfaction from, like, oh, hey, there you go. That's what I was looking for from a coach. Do you think, like, Shaq looks at the homeless people like, I'm not in their situation. I can't ever feel that way. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's how a lot of people should look at it when, like, that sort of stuff happens within sports? Like, I can't feel this way. So if it was me, if I was in hockey, I can't feel down on myself for playing 2 games shitty, because could you imagine if those people in Peru got to even see an ice hockey rink and actually, like, have a pair of skates and play? They're happy just because they're waking up and the sun's beating down their, like, huts in the mountains. Like, they can't have that mindset and allow that to drag them down. They need to continue to play at their own game, like we talked about earlier, and not chase that next thing, but chase the way they continue to play and grow their level of play. Did that make sense?
No, that makes sense for sure. But I would say doing that, saying that, oh, I can't feel this way because these people would love to be in my position, that's definitely an unhealthy way to look at it. Because when you look at it that way, you're kind of disregarding your feelings.
Well, isn't that similar to what Shaq was trying to say?
Well, yes. But that works for Shaq.
Okay.
But I feel like Shaq still subconsciously has these feelings that he just blocks away.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, he sees them, but he just blocks them away. Mm-hmm. But when you actually do that, like in your example, right? When you say, oh, these people would love to be playing this sport, So when I have 2 bad games, like I can't be down on myself. Like I would say, you can say that you shouldn't be down on yourself because maybe the game before those 2 games you had a goal.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not just like the worst player ever.
But you have your coaches hollering at you on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
No, I see what you're saying, but I still believe that you need to really validate your feelings. Mm-hmm. You can't just put your feelings off because say you have 2 bad games and then you have feelings of less confidence and maybe feelings of anxiety that your coach is going to yell at you, all these things. You have to actually experience those feelings and actually sit with those feelings and then figure out, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Mm-hmm.
So
learn from it.
Exactly. So like I was saying, when you say these people aren't in the position that I'm in, so I can't feel this way, that's pretty much you're just blocking those thoughts. Mm. So those thoughts are still in your mind. They're not out. You see what I'm saying?
I see exactly what you're saying. Wow, man, you really like analyzed it. I see. Yeah. I think you are in a perfect role to be leading your company, The Life Play, because you can really see the bigger picture. Yeah. And you're in the sophomore year of college, right? Yes. You're still so young into this, and you still have you're up for your PhD, correct? Yes, like you have years to continue to learn about this stuff, but already you see the bigger picture. You analyze things for what they are and see like what can come out of it and what can come out of it if you made one decision but not the other, or that decision besides the other. Mm-hmm. I think you are in a very good role to be leading your company and leading your organization to where you want it to take it exactly it. And you have all my respect, all the props. Why now me saying this? Why do you think people should go to your service and your organization to hear knowledge, advice, learn from it? What makes your service different from other mental health awareness organizations? What makes you guys different?
So with the Life Play, me being the CEO and founder, I'm a former athlete who has dealt with these mental challenges that athletes currently do deal with. Mm-hmm. So I believe that me being the leader of this organization and company and actually knowing what these athletes have gone through, it puts me at an advantage. Mm-hmm. And then also down the line when I get my my master's and also PhD in sports psychology, I'm going to have the credentials to help you. Mm-hmm. And the specific knowledge to help these people. There's lots of therapists and there's lots of companies that are mental coaches or all these things. They have no credentials. They have no degrees.
Yeah.
They're not doctors, all those things. I would be Dr. Tyler Seward.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
that's clean.
Exactly. If you want to become a better athlete, if you want to play at your highest possible potential, come to Dr. Tyler Seward and the Life Play. We'll help you out.
I love it. I love to hear that. It's because you are always learning and you're always becoming a better doctor, CEO, founder, etc. You're always looking for that new thing to evolve as yourself. And I think that's the best way to lead a company as you are and really express that on why people should come to your service instead of others. Because like you said, you have all the credentials, you've experienced it, you lived it, you know what it's like, and you can help others with that, and you can direct the team to express that as well in the same format and fashion, Definitely. Which I think is perfect.
And I would say I also have a pure passion for this.
You do.
I feel so passionate when I talk about this every single time. I just love it. Every time.
You can hear it behind your voice. Yeah. You can tell that you actually care for it. You know how many people probably think similar stuff to you and want to act on it? Mm-hmm. You do act on it. Yeah. You make that next step. You're on this podcast talking about this organization and expressing it out to the world. You can tell you have a passion for it.
It's necessary.
It is necessary.
I really want to speak for those people that are scared to speak up about mm-hmm. these things and just tell them that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. Mm-hmm. So that's why I just really want to spread the message as fast as possible to as many people as possible. Because there's so many people dealing with these things, but they just mask it. and they never really express how they actually feel.
Well, what do you think the biggest, like, I'll use misconception again, but what do you think the biggest misconception is about athletes on why they can't express themselves and really say what's going on in their head because they are on that pedestal, like we stated earlier? Do you think, like, what's some of the misconceptions there that don't allow athletes to personally open up to people like yourself and help them? Because I guarantee you, if there were like a group of 10 athletes who were listening to all these therapists and they weren't hearing the right one, and boom, someone like you they hear and they're like, wow, this guy gets it, can understand it. Now I can feel as if I can open up about it and talk about it. But what's stopping them? What's that misconception on why they can't open up?
So I would say society, coaches, parents, social media, all these people, like when you talk about these things or you show any real emotion, you're weak.
Mm-hmm.
You're all these names, all these things, right? That people have learned in society and through generations. Like you're not supposed to show emotion. I would say especially men, and I would say especially black men.
Okay.
Because lots of men are taught, oh, just suck it up. Just man it up. Like people say, man it up.
Yeah.
Like, just manning it up means putting all these emotions to my subconscious so that it can harm me in the future. That's what man up means. Not, I think we should change the meaning of man up to actually sit down with your feelings. Those hard feelings that may make you cry, that make you feel, that make your heart beat. You sit with those emotions and work through them. I feel like that's the real definition of manning.
I am a huge fan of that, because when I brought up crying to the MMA fighter Chris Molina, he's amazing, by the way, dope guy. But I brought up to him, is it okay for a man to cry? And he said no. He was like, I've always been taught, like no, it's not okay for a man to cry.
And you see, he was taught that.
I am pretty sure he said it was taught that. Like, after we're done this, I'll go check out the pod. Okay.
I mean, but either way, everything that we do is
implemented.
It's taught.
Yeah, it's taught. You're learned to think that way.
Exactly.
And like you could tell, because even he said maybe about like a handful, 4 or 5 people have seen me cry. Mm-hmm. But you don't think it should be that way. Manning up is expressing it and growing from it and learning from how you felt so you can be a better man at the end of the day.
Exactly. I'll give you a perfect example. There's this guy from Slipknot. It's a rock group. I watched this YouTube video. It's pretty much a therapy session. I forgot what the guy's name is, but it was a great session. Right? He talked about lots of trauma that he went through growing up. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the session, the therapist told him to sit with those feelings. He closed his eyes and he said, "Imagine whatever he told him to imagine." So he closed his eyes. And then he told him to just feel all those feelings, right? And then he just became overwhelmed with emotion and then just started bawling his eyes out. And coming from a rock, like, this is like heavy metal rock.
Yeah.
Where he's wearing masks and they're like screaming, like all these things, right? You wouldn't think that's how he feels inside.
Not in a million chances.
Exactly. You think he's just the tough guy. Like, he's the tough guy. There's nothing wrong with him. But deep down inside, he needed to get that cry out.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you just need to release those emotions. Like, crying is a release of emotion.
For sure. For sure. I think anyone can feel that, like, when they do cry.
Exactly.
It just that they are growing up, they're told not to cry. They're told to keep it in and be a man. Yeah. But I think with you bringing out that new, like, statement, and would you call that I'll fade away from that. But with you bringing that about, I think that's how you should be and grow from it. Because, like you said in that example just now, keeping it in, that's a visual representation of like what could happen if you just keep it in and like burst out crying. But I'm sure like when he cried and let it all out and ended up discussing it, he felt a lot better. Because then he could really have someone else as well analyze. Because I feel as if you're just thinking about it on your own and keeping it in like that, like I said, you have that voice in the back of your head, but in those situations, you may have 10 different voices talking to you at once. Like, you don't know what the best thing to choose is, you don't know what to do, but allowing that voice to hear you and really like analyze what you're saying, you could have another helping hand right there to give you that decision-making choice to make and what you should do moving forward.
Yeah. And I also would say that when we hold these feelings in, that's why you see so many people committing suicide. Things like that, hurting themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they don't have a way to express that pain, express that anger, the sadness. So they're like, they can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And they have nobody to talk to because they were told to man up. They were told to just master emotions. And then
You give up.
Exactly. Then they're no longer here. And that's the last thing that you want to happen. So if you don't want those things to happen, we need to talk about our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the number one leading way men are dying?
Is it suicide? Really?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
That's wild. And it's no surprise that it's male, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And is it because like you think they are holding everything in and they're taught to be this way?
Yep,
like,
that's exactly why.
It just doesn't turn out great long term.
Yep.
And do you know like the age of when that's happening? Like, is there a certain? This may be something like you look into after as well. It's just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
But is there like an age where it does hit a male harder, like harder than it would like when they're younger or like 10 years older, and it's just like that time frame of where they have to get through or talk about it more?
No, I would say it all depends on the person. Because people can go through things when they're very young and then battle all these things their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can go through something when they're 30 years old and then have to battle that after that.
Mm-hmm.
So it really just depends on the person. Every person's story is different. Everybody grows up different. Everybody's trauma is different. So, there's not just one way of looking at mental health and all that. It's based on the person.
Like I said, you see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
True representation of that. This is an idea I just had in my head. I don't know if they do this. Within movies, do they bring about mental health, specifically athletes as well? Mm-hmm. But do you think that's also a smart way to really express mental health as in a movie? Because it is a movie. It's not necessarily like in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you think that should be a way to express the awareness for mental health of athletes more to the world is through movies, or no, because it's scripted, it's as an act? Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a good way, smart way? No?
So I think it is an amazing way.
You do think it's great?
I think it is an amazing way. And I don't think that I've seen a movie based on sports psychology or psychology.
I don't either.
And I'm not going to say that anybody should do it until I do it.
Yeah.
But I think that definitely would help a lot of people.
I can tell,
especially like in a movie version, it's like it's also entertainment while you're learning something at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like just a podcast where people are talking. It's an actual visual representation of what can go on and what does happen in the lives of athletes and just people in general.
I think it's brilliant, but you would have to do it the right way, correct? You can't really allow this to be shown to the world in a way to like it's not true. You can't do this in a way where like the whole movie, like the athlete's being told to man up, and then by the end of the film, like he makes that star-studded touchdown catch because he manned up and like kept it inside of him. I think that's where it really has to be shown in a certain way to be expressed to the world.
I have an idea.
Hey, I can tell
idea.
when I brought up the movies, your eyes lit up. I was like, what's he thinking about? Your eyes lit up.
I have an idea. I don't want to speak on it now, but I have an idea. Don't worry.
Hey, man, make it happen. Make it happen down the line.
There is a good movie, though, that talks about the internal emotions. I think it's called In and Out. Is it In and Out?
In and Out.
It's the movie with the...
In and Out, the Disney movie?
Yeah, Disney movie.
Is really good.
It's a Disney movie that talks about like your emotions, and all your emotions are different characters, like anger, sadness, fear. All those emotions are different characters, and like it shows them inside a person's head, and it shows them like, oh, the anger character is taking over now. The sad character's not there anymore. Like he's pushing them out the way. He's just all anger.
Yeah.
So I like how that really represents like what goes on in a person's mind, and I don't think that lots of people really understood that because that was pretty much like a kid movie. It was a Disney movie.
Mhm.
but it's very intricate when you really pay attention to it.
I'm gonna have to, what's it called In and Out.
In
I'll
and
tell
Out.
you. No, I never seen
It's
it.
a great movie.
The blue girl. I mean, the girl plays hockey.
I never seen this movie. No, I'll
Great
watch it.
movie.
I want to see what you're talking about. What'd you say? Yeah, I don't.
You see Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh hell yeah!
I think
Wolf
it's
of
good
Wall
movie.
Street. Yeah. War Dogs. War Dogs is an amazing one as
I
well.
haven't seen War Dogs.
No, War Dogs. Oh no, you have to watch it because what they do in the movie is like completely legal until the very last. Like they're what are they? They're international arms dealers. Yeah, and you'll see at the end where it becomes illegal. But watch that because if you like Wolf of Wall Street, you'll like War Dogs. It's on Netflix.
Right.
But yeah, big Wolf of Wall Street. I probably watch it like once every 6 months.
That's my favorite movie. I know like every word to it.
Really? Dude, my brother hates me because whenever I rewatch it, he's like, "What the fuck are you watching this shit for?" Like,
It's a great movie.
It's a great
every
movie.
single time.
Leonardo DiCaprio aces that role too.
Amazing.
Do you think this has nothing to do with the like play, but do you think Jordan Belfort is a bad person now for what he did in that movie and everything? Because I know
Now?
do you think he should almost be like this celebrity or like influencer to kids after he did all that and took money from people? Because I know I'm not a fan of this guy at all, actually, but I know he's not a fan of Jordan Belfort. It's Grant Cardone. He does not like Jordan Belfort at all. What do you think about Jordan Belfort? You think he should be viewed that way?
So
I like how
I think that it's not his decision, it's society's decision.
Mm-hmm.
Society not vilifies, society puts, I would say, villains on a pedestal, pretty much. Like, people see villains and they're doing all these cool things and they're like, oh, like, let me pay attention to what they're doing. And he's just taking that attention and monetizing it, pretty much.
He's outsmarting them like he did in the movie, just in a cruel way. I mean, but I love
now
it.
Now he's doing it illegally.
Yeah, exactly that. Saying that, you a fan of Andrew Tate?
I watch some Andrew Tate here and there.
You
it's
like
entertaining.
Him? Entertaining. Okay,
entertaining.
That's a good way to put it. But I just had to bring that about. But yeah, I think allowing movies to bring about mental health awareness and mental health for athletes is a brilliant idea. Do your magic, work what you got, and I'll see that down the line. I'm going to ask you a question. I ask every guest this, and I'll give you some examples. What is one thing you know is 100% real on this earth in the world? What is one thing you know is 100% real? For example, Marissa's is evolution. No matter whether it's in a decline, in a good way, bad way, evolution and evolving is real within everything in life. Evolution. A buddy of mine, Vince, his was love. The feeling and affection of love, he knows is 100% real that you can have with something towards someone, but love. Mine is that I 100% know the Egyptian pyramids were not just average human made. It took
what were they
more.
Made by?
Huh?
What were they made by?
Well, I don't know. I didn't say I knew what they were made of, like, or how they were made.
So how could you know it's 100% real?
Let me tell you, bro. I 100% know it was. I know. It was not just like us. These humans in the room did not like single-handedly like pick up the stones and put them there and make a pyramid. Like the only thing I'll give credit to is if that pulley system was real, that or the water theory. Have you heard about the water theory?
No,
So like the water in Egypt, like where the pyramids are, if you put water on the sand, it'll like not dissolve but move and go away in different areas. Well, this person thinks there's a theory where the pyramids were once underground and they used water to shape out the pyramid around the stones. It's a theory.
I don't know about that.
I didn't say I agree with it. I just said it's a theory. So, Tyler, what is one thing you know is 100% real on this earth, in this world?
So what I know is 100% real are mental illnesses.
Okay.
Which lots of people overlook because they don't actually understand the science behind it. In your brain, people are born with missing parts of their brain, missing functions in their brain, so they may not be able to have empathy for others or may interpret situations completely different. For example, like people who have example,
Okay.
for example, people who have I can't think of the word.
What is it like? Describe it.
Well, for one example is Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Alzheimer's is something that happens like late in adulthood, where people just forget things and stuff like that because there's a change in their brain, scientifically. I can't think of what I was thinking about, but I just know that some people are born with a different looking brain than like how a normal brain should look.
Okay.
And when they're missing parts of their brain, that's when mental illnesses come about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I know is 100%.
And you backed it up with reasoning.
Yes.
Hey, I love your answer, and it fits you exactly.
And there's lots of research, and if I'm someone who believes lots in science,
Mm-hmm.
because there's research to back it. People have spent lots of years and lots of time going over this. How can you ignore it?
Because you are a fan of science, what do you think about the Big Bang?
I was just talking to somebody about the Big Bang, and I feel like it possibly could be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we could have just been a Big Bang, and then I don't know, dinosaurs and all these types of things came. I really don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. We don't know how the world came about.
Yeah.
But Big Bang is definitely a possibility.
Definitely a possibility.
Definitely a
And
possibility.
I actually told someone else this. I would love to have someone within that science field who has to deal with that stuff to talk about that specifically, because you could have a whole podcast on that.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you also think, because I think this may play a role with mental illnesses, the Neuralink that Elon Musk is making. Do you know about that?
It's a neural chip where I don't know what the neural chip is supposed to be for. What is it for?
It's meant, so at first it's supposed to help people with spinal injuries and mental illnesses such as Alzheimer's. There's a list of it. If you look it up, he'll list of everything he wants it to be used for to help.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes in the back of your head and it'll connect to your brain some way, somehow. I don't know. It's pretty freaky. Mm-hmm. And it'll help solve issues that deal with the spine. So like if you're paralyzed, it'll allow you to not be paralyzed. Mm-hmm. And if you have Alzheimer's where you forget stuff, you won't forget stuff because of Neuralink. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a way it should be solved, is through that type of technology?
So I feel like something like that is pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yet it may actually be very beneficial. Mm-hmm. We don't know. They're in the early stages of this, aren't they?
Early state, they've been working on it for years now, but I think this year or the year coming up, they're doing human trials. So it's not far, I'd say, because he tested it on pigs in some sorts, and it was on the news. And like, what it will eventually lead to is, remember how I talked about how like the Egyptians could telepathically move stuff, but you know how like they can, if you could do that telepathically, you could talk. So like we could have a podcast, but everything's on the head and no words. That's what he wants to end up doing with it as well, to where we won't need words to talk. Yeah,
that's a little scary.
Scary, right? Like what the fuck is going on there?
I don't know. I mean, if he could make it be very beneficial and like actually help people in the world, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
To be honest, I'm a big believer in whatever Elon Musk does.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's our living Albert Einstein.
He is.
So
perfect representation.
I don't know. I'm not going to go against what Albert Einstein is doing, or Elon Musk. So,
I'm going to go with it.
Exactly.
Until something bad happens, I'm going to go with it.
Exactly.
I was just about to bring up a topic to you that I thought was really interesting. Damn, there's something on my tongue. God. Now I really wanted to bring this up. I totally forgot about it. Oh, okay. Would you classify, this has to do with Elon as well, like Asperger's and like autism? I don't know.
That's what I meant to say. Autism.
Oh, okay.
Autism is a psychologically, your brain is psychologically different. Like and you're born with that. So
my cousin has it.
So people with autism, they didn't choose to be like that. Nothing in their life like formed them to be that. That's just through hereditary and genetics. So something like that, that's a mental illness that's pretty real. That, I mean, people see it and people believe it, yes, but there's lots of other mental illnesses like that that people just think is not real.
Well, when you say mental illness, do you look at it as a bad way? Because I feel as if a lot of people with Asperger's or autism are really, really smart, such as Elon. He's just overall smart as fuck, you know? But like a lot of these people I see who have autism or Asperger's are genuinely very, very smart in a way that we are not. They may not be able to understand or like correspond what we think is in like smart and what we like to talk about and all, but they can do stuff we could like not do at all. So when you say illness, do you look at it as like a bad thing for the mental, or like, because I get like mental illnesses that really do affect you and are bad, but bringing in the lines of autism and Asperger's and stuff along those lines, would you consider those a bad thing?
So I would say that mental illnesses and mental disorders, we shouldn't classify them as bad things, because most of them, like there are mental illnesses like anxiety and depression that we can work through and like just we can get past that. But then there's other mental like disorders like autism that's unfortunately not going to go away. So we shouldn't look at it as a bad thing. We should look at it like that's the person that they are, and we should go about life appreciating the way that we are, not saying why am I like this. See what I'm saying?
I love exactly what you just said. I think it's exactly how we should view it, and view if you are a person of that sort, you should view it that way because it's almost a gift. You know.
That's why I would wise words from Kanye.
Okay.
He was like, this ain't no mental. He was like, this ain't no mental disability. This is my superpower.
It is.
He's like, I'm a superhero.
Yeah. Look at like look at him. It is a superpower. He's is he 36?
I don't know.
Did you hear the quote he just had? No. I think it was recently, or I have never seen it before.
One of the old interviews where he was saying that people give and look for things back.
No, I don't think so. It was more like, why would I listen to anyone like besides myself when I am the one making the ideas? Like, I am 36 years old and I'm the motherfucker with these ideas. Why would I let anyone like affect those ideas or like put nonsense into these ideas when I am who I am at 36, making these ideas come to life?
Kanye's worth $6 billion for a reason.
Exactly.
So you can say what you want about him. You can talk about his mental illnesses with being bipolar and having the big mood swings of grandiosity and then like high depression. But at the end of the day, there's something going on in his head that's working. There's something going on in his head that's pretty smart. He's not worth $6 billion. He's not
for no reason.
He wasn't a musical superstar. Still is a musical superstar for no reason. He's not a massively successful business entrepreneur for no reason. So I don't know. I think we should pay attention more and not just disregard.
Look at him like he's crazy because he's not crazy. He knows. I feel as if he knows more than we do, and I think it's what it is and how we should view it. And you can't shit on him for that. You almost have to like learn from that and be like, what is he seeing that we don't see, and how can I see that way? And then
another thing is that there's lots of people in the world who may be bipolar, may be depressed, may have anxiety, may have a complete mental disorder, but because they never got checked or never got actually diagnosed, they're just going about their life, and then their peers don't think that there's anything wrong with them, or they may actually think that there's something wrong with them, but they're not going to tell them. So they just go about their life with these mental illnesses and disorders, and nothing happens. But because they're not actually diagnosed with these things, they don't have that negative look at them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like someone like Kanye, like he came out and said he's bipolar, right? So then now every time Kanye does something, people are like, oh, it's because he's bipolar, it's his meds, all this stuff. Exactly. So
what can we do about it? But we can help him out by talking about it in this form. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to bring about something for for the Life Play organization. Now, when you start consulting and you have your own, what would you call it, practice?
Private practice, yes.
Practice. Are you going to approach this sport by sport? So say if like you were the person talking to all the basketball people, you had someone for ice hockey, you had someone for football, fighting, etc.
Mhm.
How do you plan on approaching each sport in its own way? Or do you think if it's a sport, it's okay, you like as a person could talk to you even if they play basketball, even if it's football? Do you think you should take the route of you're going to dial in on each person that works with each sport is going to know that sport?
Mhm.
What do you think you're going to do for that?
So I think in sports psychology in general, like I play basketball,
Mhm.
but I could definitely help somebody who's played baseball. So in general, it doesn't really make a huge difference with the
Okay.
sport, but I would love to have people on my staff uh, specifically for these sports,
Mhm.
so that these athletes that are coming in for help feel comfortable and they're like, oh, okay, they know what I'm going through. They've played this sport. They know what it feels like to strike out 10 times in a row.
They can
stuff like
relate
that.
to them.
Exactly. So I feel like that would be the most beneficial thing. But at the end of the day, sports psychology can be applied to many different sports. And even if you want to talk about performance psychology can go over a much broader um, thing as well. Because with performance psychology, you can talk to violinists, pianists, people like that, performers who have anxiety,
Oh.
anything. So, yeah, it's pretty much once you know the information on like sports psychology or performance psychology, you can help out lots of people.
I think the performance psychology is brilliant, what you just said, because a buddy of mine who is into calisthenics, he says it's almost like performance.
Mhm.
And I worked out with him, and it's like, holy hell. Like, he's actually the only, his name's Kendall. Shout out Kendall. He's actually the only person who has, like, nearly made me puke from, like, a workout, and it was only body weight. I'm like,
Mhm.
what the fuck is this shit, man? But this guy just does it, and he says the performance, but he said the same thing as, like, with the podcast.
Mhm.
He was like, you're a conversationist. Your performance is you having a conversation that no one else can really do. No one else can really do what this guy does with calisthenics unless you do it so much to where you learn it, you know?
Yeah.
But some people find the gift to where they can do it and ace it.
Yeah.
And he said it's the same way with this, you know? And I think with you having that performance psychologist, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Performance psychology. Yeah.
Performance psychology, that's amazing because there's everyone in the world performs.
Yep.
Whether it's their job, but
Whether they're at a business interview, whether they're giving a PowerPoint to their staff at their company, all of those things are performances. Like you said, you talking on your podcast as the host, this is a performance.
exactly,
Everything.
exactly, and like you could having like a performance psychiatrist. I don't know why I keep having problems.
Psychologist.
Psychologist. My bad. But like, I feel as if people like myself, and this is a field like if I ever had problems with, damn right, I would so go to that. But it's not just me in this field. You're having everyone performs.
Yep.
So many people need help with that, and a lot of people especially need help like being themselves while performing.
Yeah.
Like you said, like with sports, you have to be yourself and play your own game.
Mhm.
Because they're performing as well.
Mhm.
Everything has to do with performance, but you have to do it your own way and not follow someone else's guidelines.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I think that's a brilliant path and idea you should definitely execute on for your organization. Exactly.
Because it's all the same. Like
Mhm.
whether you're a bowler, whether you're a public speaker, if you have anything going on in your head that hinders your performance, that can be helped.
Mm-hmm.
Say a bowler, you're not bowling and doing your regular movements because you have thoughts of doubt in your head. You're like, oh, what if I don't get a strike?
Yeah.
What if I don't spin it as well or the perfect way that I should be doing that I've done so many times in practice?
Mm-hmm.
all those thought processes can be changed and modified through rituals, through chants, through self-talk, positive self-talk, all those things. So it doesn't matter the sport, really, or it doesn't even have to be a sport.
It's the performance part of it.
Exactly.
Dude, that's brilliant. I fully believe you yourself should execute that because you approach it in a very, very professional way, but also like a very relatable way. You're not someone who someone should be interrogated by or like almost scared by. You allow yourself to open up to others, but allow them to open up to yourself as well. And like I keep saying, you see the bigger picture. So I think it's smart. I think what you're doing is intelligent as hell. Continue doing what you are doing and conquer it, dude. I think this is a perfect field for you. How many years of schooling do you have left to get your PhD?
So for my undergrad, I have about like 2.5, or not 2.5, about like 2. I'm in my second year, but I took summer classes, so I should graduate in like 3.5 years. And then 2 years for graduate school, and then PhD program. It's around like 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, while you're doing all of this, what type of building are you doing? Like you said, you have the podcast coming out, you have the YouTube parts coming out, and of course, when you graduate, is that when you plan on opening the practice? Correct. What do you plan on doing in these years?
So throughout these years, I'm just going to continue to grow the name and continue to give the information to the masses because I feel like that's the most important. Like my private practice and the money, that'll all come. But my most important thing, like in this time being, is just spreading the information and then also spreading the name of the life play.
I think it's brilliant. Follow your passion with it too, as well. Did you actually just see the boxer who just pulled out of a fight today for mental health issues?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you just
you gotta send me that.
I will. I was going to
post it.
It was literally on your way here. I saw it and I was like, I got to bring this up to him.
Okay.
But yeah, he pulled out of his boxing match today because of mental illness or mental health issues. So I knew I had to talk to you about it. I forget the guy's name.
But speaking of a boxer, though, Danny Garcia, he's from Philly, right? So he just won his last fight, which was maybe like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
But he didn't fight for maybe like a whole year or two. Like that was the last time he fought. Before that, and he lost, and I think he lost his belt. So that was like super hard for him. So that's why he didn't fight for such a long time. And then when he came back and won, it was like it felt so good, right? So then in his after the fight interview, the interviewer was talking to him, and then he just broke down crying.
Really?
Like, broke down crying, talking about how he was going through anxiety and depression, and then he pretty much was like motivating people that if you're going through these things, you can get past it. You can get past it. All you have to do is keep fighting, and that's what he's saying. He's a fighter, and then that's what he did today. He came out here and he fought through all those emotions, and he won.
Do you think fighters have more of a problem with than other sports because of that look they are put upon of like they are the toughest guy in the room at all times? Do you think that may have a play with fighters specifically?
To be honest, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Because from what I've seen in like boxing and UFC, it seems like the fighters are the most emotional people.
Open about it. They are open about it.
Like another example, I don't want to mess his name up, but I think his name is Patty Pamblett.
I know you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, Patty. Yeah.
Exactly. His last fight.
I saw this.
After he won, he broke down crying once again because his friend, I think the day before,
that morning,
that morning, he got a call or text saying that one of his friends killed himself, and he said that he didn't know he was going through these things because he never talked to him, and then he was another one who stood up and was telling people like, talk about these things because we don't like. He said he'd rather have his friend cry on his shoulder than him have to go to his funeral.
Exactly.
Like those are powerful words that more people need to hear because like, we don't need people dying based off their own self-inflicted things.
I think that's how like people at that level with that, I don't want to say fame, but who do have a bigger voice should be expressing rather than getting into the like the bad stuff that's not going to, that's just right now.
Yeah.
Like it'll move past quick, but like the mental health of humans is here forever.
Exactly.
You know,
that's why I'm gonna have him on my podcast so we can talk about it.
I
so we
love
can
it.
have those conversations that aren't seen as acceptable, aren't seen as being tough. We're gonna have those conversations because that's real life.
Real
People see these athletes and celebrities and all these people and think that they live a completely different life. They're still in the same exact world that we're in. Like they have the same real life as you.
They're just another human.
They're just another human. They may have more eyeballs on them. They may have more money, but at the end of the day, their brain and their body functions just like you.
It does.
Exactly. So that's why I just want to spread that.
I love it. And this is just an idea that popped up as well. Do animals help people with mental health issues? Yeah. I feel like as if animals are very like, you can really like feel something from like a dog or cat, like an animal. Is that something you've ever like? I don't know. It literally just popped in my head. Like, so
that's why there's support animals, like support dogs and support cats. Actually, on FIU's campus, they have like cats all around the campus for mental health.
Brilliant.
When people see them, to just cheer them up.
Brilliant.
Exactly.
Dude, we're sending that to them as well. Brilliant. I think that's smart as hell.
Yep.
You need, because like, if it's just like a little thing, like, you know how many people would love if there was just dogs everywhere, just like running up to
everybody would stop.
You.
Oh my god!
Yeah, exactly. Like it'll make your day. Like you see imagine if you saw the same cat every day. You're walking around campus, man. You're having a hard day. You're walking back at like 6 o'clock, like about to cry, and you see that cat. And the thing is, it has no clue what you went through, but it's still going to be there for you.
Exactly.
I think animals should be something like, hey, you look through down the line and be like, hey, if like you're a part of like an animal shelter, that these dogs are very like, or not even dogs, just animals. You connect with an animal shelter and you have a client who's having really big problems. Be like, hey man, I think a really big thing for you is maybe you do need an animal there to be with you and help you out through all these things. I can connect you to an animal shelter. They'll give you like a huge discount. You come through us. Go buy yourself a dog. I think it'll become your best friend. You won't look back. Like there's outlets, and I think animals are a huge thing that can have a huge play with mental health.
Definitely, it's very beneficial. But that's why you've never seen support animals on planes. So people bring their dogs on planes because they can't go to a different state without them. Yeah, like they'll be emotionally unstable without them.
Oh, yeah! I didn't know clue about this, dude. No clue about this.
Like they wear a little jacket and everything.
Wow!
A support animal jacket.
They're called support animals.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
I never knew about this. I don't know, man. Maybe I'll shelter by it. But I think it's brilliant. Is there any other ideas like out of the box like that? Now I don't want you to expose your plans for down the line, like what's going to make you stick out than the rest. But do you have like outside the box thinking similar to that you plan to do with the Life Play organization?
Yeah, I'm a pretty outside the box thinking guy.
I could tell.
So we'll definitely have lots of different lots of different avenues, lots of different platforms. So yeah, we will.
I love it. How is your like support system behind you about this? Because I'm sure like I love what you're doing, man. I love what you're doing. But like, is your family and the people around you, your friends, maybe like your basketball buddies, be like, "The fuck? Like, just come ball with us, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, how is the supporting group around you feeling about what you're doing with this?"
So I would say my parents support me the most.
Okay.
My parents definitely see the vision because they know firsthand and saw firsthand what I went through. So they supported 100%. Like I said, my dad came up with the name. Like they're involved. Like
they're about this.
Exactly. And then I would say with my friends, they definitely follow the page and they definitely see the vision.
Yeah.
Because especially lots of my friends are athletes.
Okay.
Like right now in college and stuff like that. And they are going through these things. So they go on my page, they see these things, and that helps them as well. So even if they don't outwardly tell me, like, oh, like I love what you're doing, all these things, I see that it's helping.
Yeah. You could tell like they're interacting with it in some way.
Yeah, liking pictures, everything.
Yep.
They feel it.
It's spreading the word.
Yeah, they feel it.
I actually just saw one of your posts blew up recently, right? Like for your account?
That was the Danny Garcia one.
Oh, that was Danny Garcia.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like, I was up for no reason at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. and all of a sudden my phone is just going off. I'm like, what is going on? And then I go to the video. I think it's at like maybe like 17K views and like 500 likes. Exactly.
It runs on Instagram and Facebook as well, right?
It does?
Oh yeah, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
You just put me on something.
because it was a reel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, reels. When you post them, they go on Instagram as well as Facebook. Now you do have to click something where like it does allow that, but like mine, when I first had it, was already on it.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure I was shadow banned for some. I actually had reels. All the reels were doing great. Like everyone was about 5K views and up. And I was like, all right.
Mhm.
And then I had a nurse anesthetist on, and I asked him about health systems worldwide and how much of a play do like what is it called when like use plants, herbs, seeds to like.
I know what you're talking
Well, I
about.
was talking about that, and when I posted that, like it just
Herbology?
I don't think
Is that
it's
what it's
that. I don't. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
And I posted something about that and how like health systems worldwide are just like different. Boom! Ever since that, there's like no plays on Facebook,
Oh, wow.
no plays. So I don't know what's going on there, but your content would explode off that. Even if it's not on there already, dude, use it. You can really get your word out there with the life play because people want this to spread. People want to help others, and I think that's huge going on right now. Because right now, people just like going at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are greedy, cruel. You need the people that are going to support you, help you build, help you be a better human.
Definitely.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do with the podcast, and that's why I love what you're doing as well, dude. You're helping others. You don't really, like you said, it's a passion. You don't really care about the money at the time. You don't care about like what else is going on, but you're going to help others in the meantime. I love that exactly, and I love what you're doing, man. I really do love what you're doing. Is there anything you'd like to talk about before we close out, brother? Is there anything?
A topic that just came to my mind
Okay.
was how in society I feel like there is a shift right now, like in the time of how like talking about mental health and talking about just like real life is becoming more common. And people are finally noticing things like social media are just fake, and social media just it's just those are just your best highlights and your best pictures and everything, but it's not real life.
Yeah.
And I think lots of people are noticing that. And I think that that's another reason why podcasts are becoming such a big thing.
They're growing really
Exactly,
fast.
because it's just real conversations.
Yep.
It's people in real time talking about whatever their topic is, their category is, but just sitting down and having a conversation about it instead of just being on an Instagram account and posting something, and where the person who is like 12 doesn't really understand it, but because it's on Instagram and it's portrayed in a certain way, their mind goes in a different direction.
Yep.
Whereas in a podcast, you can actually sit down and explain all these things, and people are getting more information on just every single topic.
Yep.
Whereas people are learning and becoming people in the real world rather than just people in the fake world like social media.
Pretending to be someone they're not.
Yeah.
You're hearing a conversation that's real, authentic, and you're hearing it from real people.
Exactly.
Not something that's just programmed, scripted. Like it's not like I said, I don't want this to be looked at as a show.
Yeah.
It's nothing's like, this is a real conversation we're having, and people learn from these rather than seeing that fake bullshit on social media. Social media can be used in a brilliant way, or it can be used to use people and get something out of you.
Did you know that the people that use social media the most are the people who are most depressed? That's a stat. That's a stat that I learned in my personality class.
Is it because they're basing their life off of everything they see on social media?
And it's also pretty discouraging, right? You go on social media, you see the people on the yachts.
The spaghetti?
You see people on the yachts. You see people with Rolex on, with iced out chains. You see all these beautiful women.
Yep.
All these things are discouraging. And then you look at yourself and you're like, I don't have those things.
Why don't I have those things?
Exactly. So then that's why people who just scroll constantly on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and all these things are the ones that are most depressed.
I'm not shocked at all. Yeah. I think you should start having like a time limit on certain apps, to where like you said, if you're on there all day and like those are the depressed people, realize that, put a time limit, like 30 minutes a day, if that, and really like see how you can transition out of that.
Exactly.
Are you a fan of Jim Carrey and his thoughts on depression? how it's.
I've heard who Jim Carrey is.
Oh, you know who Jim Carrey is?
And I've heard the name, but I don't know specifically who or what he's
The
about.
actor?
He's in a bunch of
Yeah, a bunch of movies. You know Jim Carrey, The Mask.
no.
What? Ace Ventura?
Nah.
What? The Truman Show?
Truman Show, bro.
Oh, you will love The Truman Show. Really?
Can I see a picture or something?
Yeah. Well, Ant doesn't know how to work that. Here,
Jim Carrey,
Jim Carrey, bro?
very famous actor, right?
Yeah, very famous.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah,
of
that
course.
guy. That's Jim Carrey. Well, what he was saying is that like depression is like yourself in a deep rest and you're not being someone you really are.
Mhm.
Like these people on social media are looking at a life that's not really theirs and they're wishing it was theirs.
Mhm.
Like he was an actor and he would always say like he played these roles but it wasn't really Jim Carrey. Like you said with Katy Perry,
Yep.
they viewed her as Katy Perry, not Catherine,
Yep.
right? And what he says is like depression is real. It's 100% real. But if you don't have a good supporting group around you, if you don't eat right, if you don't work out your body, if you don't take care of the environment around you, you're not going to help solve that depression. And that's why I said maybe if you realize that you're scrolling all day comparing your life to these people, limit yourself to 30 minutes, narrow it down to like 10 minutes a day, and you're fixing the environment you're around and see if that helps that state of mind.
Exactly, because what you do when you scroll down social media, right? Especially people that are addicted to it, you're releasing dopamine.
Yeah.
Same thing with alcohol, same thing with marijuana. It's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when you get away from that and then you start getting serotonin is what your body releases when you go to the gym, you work out, you run, all these things. But those are the positive things that your mind needs instead of the dopamine. The dopamine, the dopamine is toxic.
Okay.
And the dopamine is what gets you addicted to everything. So that's why it's good to have dopamine detoxes and get that serotonin. Oh, also the sun. The sun just has serotonin.
Serotonin is what relieves stress. Isn't that what it is?
Yes.
Right? That's why he's working out and everything?
Yes.
You a fan of Andrew Huberman?
Never heard of him.
Andrew Huberman is a neuroscientist who's actually just recently within the last like 3 or 4 months, he's starting to blow up. And he literally studies the mind. That's his job, is to study the mind. And what he does right when he wakes up, he pisses, whatever he has to do in the bathroom, but he goes right outside, not through a window. He says, don't do it through a window. He's like, go outside and just sit in the sun for like 10 minutes.
Yep.
And if you do it consistently and you go one day without doing it, you're going to see how big of a difference your like feelings are that day. Like the sun really does have a big play on how we act throughout our lives throughout the day, and he said to do that.
So I view it like a charge.
Okay.
You go out into the sun. That's why I go to the beach a lot, especially in Miami. Like
Sure.
it's like I'm getting charged up by the sun. And it's like same thing with going to the gym. You go to the gym, you tear your muscles down, all that. You're tired. You go back home, shower. But then after that shower, you feel charged. You feel good.
You feel electric.
Exactly. So that's why the difference between serotonin and dopamine is instead of a charge, it's draining your battery. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
That's a smart way to look at it. Because I don't know. All right. So I saw this thing. This guy quit nicotine by, like you said, when you hit nicotine or do like marijuana or alcohol, it releases dopamine.
Yes.
He was saying that instead of like getting that great feeling from nicotine, he'd do 20 push-ups. But he said he got the same feeling.
Yeah.
My bad, guys. But he said he got the same feeling from doing the push-ups.
Mm-hmm.
But is that dopamine or is that serotonin being?
I mean, technically, scientifically, don't quote me on this, but
Yeah.
I believe that those are opposites.
Yeah, that's what I always thought as well.
But I think it's still a good substitute for that dopamine.
I think
Because instead of the dopamine, you're getting serotonin. So it's like you can't combat dopamine with dopamine. You need to combat dopamine with serotonin. And so that's exactly what he's doing.
that's a perfect representation. I think you hit it spot on. Because I like a lot of people who are stressed love the gym. Like when they find the gym, they get jacked.
Yep.
And they they build it into, like I said, it's like brushing your teeth. They just do it every single day because it's their stress reliever.
Yeah.
It's a therapy session.
Yep.
That is exactly how I view working out. So I would love to get big, like really like be a bodybuilder. But I can't do the rest days they do. I can't give my body that much rest and really like take time off for the gym.
Mm-hmm.
The gym to me is going in there and being a therapy session for an hour and going as hard as I can and doing shit no one else can do in that gym. That's how I view like a therapy session for myself as relating to the gym wise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people should start finding those niches within themselves to release that stress reliever and release that stuff going on inside their head because it helps. I mean, it helps me, but I know it helps others as well.
Yes,
you know, do you think like people should start finding like that niche within their lifestyle that where they can release that stress and help themselves like get this weight off their shoulders?
Definitely. That's why I recommend the gym wholeheartedly, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that I told or recommended to go to the gym and then they started going to the gym, maybe the first week it was difficult, but then after that week they loved it.
Yep.
And every time they just feel good.
Feel
And
great.
even the last person that I told to go to the gym recently, they were like, I just can't stop going to the gym. Like they just can't stop.
They get
Even though they didn't even want to go to the gym some months ago. I had to literally drag them to the gym. Now they love it. Exactly.
I think it's more so once they see that little change, even if it's on their body, but the mindset.
Yeah.
It's that little change that really gets them addicted.
Yeah.
It's an addiction. I think the gym is 100%. And
It is.
especially
It's a good addiction.
good addiction.
Yeah.
It's a great addiction because I know a person who had a very bad drug addiction and alcohol addiction, and now that addiction is fully on working out. And now they wake up at 4 a.m. and they run to the gym and they eat healthy, run to the gym every morning and run back. It's 3 miles.
Yeah.
And they eat right all day.
Did they bring a backpack?
Huh?
Did he run with the backpack on?
I don't know. I never asked
Yeah,
her. I never
crazy.
asked that one. Yeah, I don't know. I don't believe so. It's a female.
Okay.
But yeah, like that's where that addiction went, was that.
Yeah.
But it was helping them.
See, another example is that people have sexual addictions, right?
Mhm.
But there's something called sex transmutation.
What is that?
So, one, sex and the desire for sex is the most powerful desire like a human can have.
Huh.
So when you transform, sex transmutation is you transforming that energy into positive things.
Okay.
So when you transform that energy into positive things, you realize how powerful that energy is when you channel it into something different other than sex and that desire for sex.
And how would you do that? Just not have sex for so long? Or like narrow
Yeah.
it down? Because I know like
It depends on the person because people can have addictions to pornography. People can have addictions to like physical sex. So it's limiting whatever that drive is. Just limiting that, or just cutting it off.
Mhm.
You'll see that your energy, or when you try to put that energy in a different place, you'll go so hard. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I understand that like a lot of people, like well-known people at least, like the famous people who have bad sex addictions, also have a very distinct hustle of power.
Mhm.
They're all like seek power. So like these are very two bad representations, but I'm going to use them anyway. Dan Bilzerian and Andrew Tate.
Mhm.
Both of them have very bad sex addictions.
Mhm.
Apparently, that's what they say. But they also have a very distinct way of working and gaining power. They like that role of power. But at the end of the day, you could tell they work their balls off. But I think they just aced what you said, like how you said it's the strongest force.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
The strongest desire and where I don't know the exact wording, but it's the strongest desire that you have.
I think that these people ace that in a different way, but
Yeah.
they still have it because they just have done it for so long.
Mhm.
But you can ace that and use it in
Yeah.
the real world.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you learn how to like ace that and use it in something else, bro, you can be a fucking animal.
Yeah.
That's just
That's why I just read a book recently called Money Master Your Mind, or I think that's what it's called.
Money Master's Mind.
Money Master. I think I'm messing up the name, but
Okay.
it's around that. I'll get it. I'll get the real name for you. But in that book, that's where I learned sex transmutation. And then they were saying that the people with the highest sex drives have the capability to like do the most things and take that energy and put it in different areas to make them grow in such powerful ways. So like you were saying, like Dan Bilzerian and Andrew Tate, like they're such powerful people and do so much, but still have that crazy desire for sex. It correlates somehow.
Yeah, it has to.
It does. It's in the book. It's in the book. I'll give it to you. You can read it. It's in the book.
So you're a big reader.
Yes. Now, like growing up, I never liked reading books. Any of that. Like, I get like school reading books. Would never read it. Go to Spark Notes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now I notice how much knowledge is inside books. And at this point, I just need I just like learning as much as I can. And then now books are easy to read now.
Yep.
Before it was like a chore. It was like something that like I really had to force myself to do. But now I just enjoy it.
You do it so much to where you love it, and like I said earlier, knowledge is power.
Exactly.
The more I can tell, you always talk about learning. Like the more you learn, the more power you have, and like you could tell in a conversation when someone is more knowledgeable than you. Like it's pretty well known. Like I think that's why Joe Rogan can have so many conversations because he knows like a little bit or somewhat of stuff about a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like
He knows something on everything.
on everything.
That's why you can talk to anybody.
It's exactly like if you know about topics that many topics, you're bound to have a conversation with everyone you meet, like because you just have so much knowledge.
Exactly.
And that's why I think he excels so well at what he does because he's been doing it for so long. He's at like 1,900 podcasts. It's like that man's head's like a library.
See, and this knowledge doesn't even have to come from reading. It can come from watching a podcast.
Mm-hmm. I told you the first time we met, I have learned more through podcasts than I did in high school. Like, because it's not like you're learning like strictly science, math, language arts. You're learning about a lot of like unique, interesting topics and things.
Exactly.
And I think podcasts are a brilliant way to learn and gain knowledge because you're always learning something new, or you're learning about a topic. You're learning more about a topic you already knew of.
Yeah.
It's like, when can you stop learning?
Never.
Exactly. So
You can never stop learning.
never stop
That's
learning.
literally the thing.
The thing that got me into the podcast was I saw a pie chart, and a slit of it was what you knew, and then the rest of it was everything you didn't know. And the concept was like, there's so much knowledge in this world, you're never going to be able to stop learning. Look at Elon Musk. He still learns to this day, and we look at him as like Albert Einstein, which he is, but he can still continue to learn.
Exactly.
And knowledge is power, and it never stops continually to compound and grow.
And there's so many people out there that think they know everything.
Oh,
And that's pretty
the ego's too high.
yeah, that's not good. It's not good for you. Like, because when you think you know everything, you're not looking for that information that you don't know.
Yeah.
And then when you think you know everything, you just don't even know that you are missing information. So, yeah, I think more people should understand that you don't know everything.
And once you realize it, it brings that ego down as well.
Exactly.
If you have that ego so high, but you also think you're the smartest in the room when you're really not, it's going to hurt you down the line. But I also think that's a huge role in, like, of course, like, I could tell you don't have that issue. Like, us, we see it as a bigger picture now, but you live and you learn. And that's a huge thing I live by, is you live and you learn, and people just have to live and see that way is not going to work.
Yeah.
If it does, you're a needle in a haystack, because
Or it may work for them.
may work for them in their own way.
Exactly. But if you have certain goals and aspirations, you're not going to get there being stubborn and thinking that you know everything.
Exactly
That's
that.
not how it works.
Well, listen, man. I love the conversation we just had, Tyler. I love the Life Play Company.
Thank you.
I love what you're doing. I think you're the best man to lead this. You know what you're doing. You see everything in the bigger picture. You analyze everything. You have a plan. And I just met you last week, and I think you're one person who I can say I have 100% confidence in who's going to execute the plan. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep following your passion. If you ever need anything, let me know. Where can people find you on social media, and where can people find the Life Play Company?
So you can find me on social media at TSEW_. And then for the Life Play, you can find us everywhere at the Life Play. That's as simple as it is.
I love it.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we exit out?
I would like to say thank you for having me on here.
Of course.
I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I appreciate you.
I enjoyed it as well. Appreciate you for coming on. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you take a lot from this conversation. He's a good guy. Take as much as you can. Gain knowledge from it, like we said. Benefit off of it. And thank you so much. Peace and love.